Welcome back to Rennch. On this episode, we are going to continue to remove the bracketry from all of the RSR bodywork, and I'm going to show you my rad new transmission, which I'm super stoked about. What do you guys think of my Rennch coveralls? Pretty cool, huh? So, on this car, if you saw episode 1, this thing was covered with a really cool RSR GT2 body kit that I removed. Now I've got this crazy little shell of a car, and there's a whole bunch of beautifully engineered brackets that are still on it, some of which I have to drill out, some of which I have to grind, and some of which I have to unbolt. So I'm gonna start with that, and then, once that's done, I'll pull my deck lid, and I've got this rad new transmission that I'm gonna show you guys that, as far as I know, hasn't been done in an early 911 before. So, thankfully, this thing has been completely cored out underneath, so I have all kinds of room to pretty much do anything I want. But let's jump into the bracket removal, shall we? So I don't have a ton to do on the car at the moment, but one thing that's happening is I have all of these brackets that are here from all of the RSR bodywork. So I've got to remove all of these. Most of them are pretty easy and bolted on, but in the front here, I've got some riveted guys. So I'm going to have to drill those rivets out. Otherwise, it's mostly just unbolting all this stuff and just getting it ready. It's harder to put my car cover on right now because of it. So let me just throw into time lapse and I will get some of this stuff off. One of the first things I'm going to do though is I need to label these, because whoever buys my RSR body kit isn't going to know where they all go. So I'm just going to grab some tape and label them up. Now that everything's labeled, it's time to drill the rivets out. Now that all the rivets are out, I've got all of these to deal with. These are mostly 10 and 13 mil, so they should be pretty easy to zing off. I'll get all the front end done, and then I'm going to replace all the 10 millimeter bolts just because I don't want to lose them. And then I will work on these big brackets in the back. And finally, when I get some time, I'm going to drill these out as well, which are the mounting pieces for the side panels here. They're going to be a little trickier, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I've got all these brackets labeled, and this one, and this one are effectively just bolted in. So I just have to unbolt them from the inside. This one's got this big giant nut on it, but shouldn't take too long, just a couple of minutes, and then we will start tackling this awesomeness. Look how much space I've got in here to do whatever I want. So brackets are off. A for effort. This deck lid won't stay up. The shock on it is 96 years old, so I'm gonna get another one that I happen to have sitting around, fire it in there, see if it works. If not, I'm just gonna pull the deck lid so I can fiddle with this transmission and see if I can get it to fit. Success. All right, with that, let me show you guys the awesomeness of this transmission. This bad boy is the Porsche G96 transmission. It is a 6-speed cable shift transmission from a Porsche 996. I'm gonna wheel it in and see if we can get this thing to fit into this beast. What I think is the difference is the early cars have this, well, I'll show you actually. The early cars have this mount that's actually underneath here. So this is where we would typically mount. There's a cradle that bolts here, but this has been totally cored out and redesigned. My hope is that I can get the correct cradle, which has the engine mounts and all the things, and then put some ears on the transmission, because the way it mounts is this way, with this kind of vertical mount. I'll get the cradle and then I'll weld on a couple of ears on the stock cradle if that works. Let me wheel this thing in first and just sort of see how it lies in here, and we'll go from there. So there's the nose all the way in. What I'm looking for here is to see how the axles line up and then how much space I have this way for the engine. I don't know if I can get a shot. I'll try to get a shot of inside. They've really cut out. Let's see. There's all kinds of room up in the nose because they've made a nose cone slot for a G50 transmission. So this thing will really move forward if I want it to. And in terms of the axle alignment, hard to see, but looks like we're pretty spot on. So I think what I'm going to do is get a measurement of basically how much, what the width is between the transmission and then the hub, and see which Porsche drive shaft I need to order so that I can get this thing to bolt in. And then I have to look obviously up front to see if I can get my cradle mounted the way I want it to. But it looks like it's pretty close. So maybe a little bit forward. We'll see what I have to fabricate when the time comes. Anyway, let's measure it up. This thing's doing a pretty good job of blocking what I'm doing here, but you guys get the idea. It's about 19 inches. I'm getting just a rough estimate right now because I need to see what axles are out there that are about the same size in the Porsche bolt pattern. This one's measuring 19, that's measuring 18. They're probably somewhere in between that. I do know that companies can shorten them if we need to. So I'm gonna see where we are and go from there. Cool, it's a good start though. So I'm pretty happy with the fit here. The car has been obviously modified to accept such things. You can see here some of that body work has been cored out, but once I get it centered, my plan is again to get the axles. I will see what I have to do for that cradle to get it to work, and moving forward I will probably redesign this boxed in system. I like it a lot, but I don't want, like, I'd like to actually have some rear seat room. So I will probably end up running this whole thing more straight so that I can fit luggage and stuff back behind. But I do like the peekaboo hole, so I'll probably keep that. So, made some good progress today. Got the brackets gone, test fitted the transmission. I know many of you, like me, are like, can we just get moving on this thing? Well, part of the deal with this particular build is it's like a puzzle. There's a lot of things I can't do until another thing has been done, and right now I'm a little bit stuck with working with some potential sponsors for the build, and it's just there's a whole bunch going on, so I'm waiting for parts essentially. So I have penciled in a deal with a body panel manufacturer, so hopefully that will all be sorted out in the next couple of days, and we'll get some rear quarters and some fenders and some other parts that we need just to make this thing look like a car again. And I've got just a bunch of talks going with a bunch of different companies, so if you'd like to sponsor the build, there is opportunity to do that. If you want to reach out to me, 2-syllable word at gmail.com or at Rennch right here on Instagram. You can find me and we can talk about such things. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next episode. Please remember to subscribe and like and comment and do all the things. Until then, see you soon.